Family. All right, we got this down so you won't have all that feedback of me talking. So glad to be back with you. If this is your first time joining us, this is Soul Swami. This is Thursday Night Book Club, where we use this as an effort to reconnect to our child by allowing somebody to read to us. And we just pick various genres of books that we just join together and read, or you allow me to read to you. We have shows every Thursday and Tuesday night at 7 o'clock. Tuesday night shows generally centered around healing, and we do some live energy readings. And every show, we do a chakra cleansing exercise where it is breathing and a visualization. This week, we are continuing with our third eye, which is located in your forehead. It is known for your intuition, your vision. Um, what else? What else that says? Your perception and your ability to astral project. So astral project seems like some made up scientific name, but simplest put, being able to go back to the memories or go forward to your thoughts and to visualize yourself in your dreams in the future. So we are reading what I say. We're reading "Makes Me Wanna Holler" by Nathan McCall. It's one of my favorite books. We are going to start with a bow, but I'm excited. Listen, I bought this ukulele when we first started doing the show, family. I don't know if y'all remember. If you've been with us for a while, you probably do remember the ukulele. As a matter of fact, my friend, hey, these are the new glasses. Listen, I'm trying to see, one of the reasons I got the lights is hoping that you wouldn't reflect those circles on my eyes, right? So I don't know how well it's working. I gotta zoom in. So, but yeah, I was being lazy today. I ain't want to put on put in the contact. So we with the glasses today. And these new glasses. Funny that you asked that too. I'm so glad. I need to send her a text. I call her and tell her. But my best friend told me this story when she went to, I don't know, doctor, DMV, somebody. She had an eye test, right? And she has a pair of these new progressive glasses, either, the new no line bifocals. So you can't call them bifocals now. They're called multifocal lenses. So she was telling me when she was trying to do the vision test, she got to a part and she was like, "Hey man, I can't read anything," right? And then she said, as after a little while, a little conversation, fast forward, she realizes she wasn't using her glasses correctly, right? So the other day, and she said she had to move them up a little bit, right? So I've been using these new glasses, right? And I've been looking at the TV, and I'm like, yo, I can't read this. I can't read that at all. I was like, man, I can read it, but I was like, yo, I can't tell the difference between these new glasses and my old glasses as far as reading some of the words, right? And out of nowhere, all I heard was I had to move my glasses up, up. And I that's the echo I imagined in my mind. It was like, doo, 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 doo. What's that? That's so Raven mess, which they used to spin out and she gets stuck. So that's how it was. Or at least I envisioned that. That's how I imagined it went down. At least when I tell a story, it makes the story funner. But then I realized I need to move my glasses up. Oh my God, darn God. So listen. This is what I didn't know about progressive lenses and how they work, right? So I'm old school. So I know bifocals. They just had that line right there. You cross that line, and then it's a whole new, it help you read, right? Or whatever it does, right? So with progressive, it progressively gets there, right? So you can like move your glasses just a little bit and you can't read. So all I did, I just barely lifted my head. And I was like, oh, dang. Now, if I lift it all the way to where it's supposed to help me read, I can't read the TV. That's not what it's for. You know what I mean? But if I go through the little progression, it's like a gradual, envision it like a spectrum of blindness to clarity. I just sat there and laughed at myself about 30 minutes, man. This is a side story that had nothing to do with nothing. But, man, you asked me about my glasses. But listen, I was sitting here feeling foolish. So now, when I watch the TV, I got to hold my head like this. Only when I want to read stuff. I'm tripping, man. So thank you for asking. I'm sorry. That might be too much. If you want something else, you might not be feeling what I'm talking about. But Boswell, I see you stopping through, man. I appreciate you, man. You see me tripping about these glasses, cause I know you ain't gonna type, but I see. Hey, man, we outside this weekend. Actually, I got some business I need to take care of, but we outside this weekend. I'm gonna check with you, brother, man. If it ain't supposed to rain, you know what I mean, then we'll be outside. I wanted to kick it with you last weekend, but I got caught up, and then a friend said they was coming through and then stood me up. So I was like, man, I could have been outside with Boss. Having the best time of my lives, man. So I appreciate you. I hope you caught that there glasses story, because you know me. So you know how that went down. I said laughing. I listen. You know, Liberty, you know me too. You know I roasted myself. It wasn't no way. Hey, man. Dang, see? Bars, the Soul Family say, hey, I'll tell you who it is later, because she goes by a different name on social media. So I had to tell you who she really is, but you know. Um, yeah. I'm all sidetracked. You got me talking about these glasses. Okay, this is the other thing I'm excited about. Liberty, man. Listen, because you here. You remember this goddamn ukulele? And I stopped messing with it because I could not tune the C chord. I could not tune the C chord. It was just always so. I don't even know if you can hear that, but hold on. That's it now. I got to turn it back to how terrible it was. Okay. So whenever I was tuning C, I was tuning for the wrong C. That's what I figured out. So it'll always be so crazy low. But today I picked it up. So I'll be playing the other keys. And C will sound bad like this. So I think my ukulele messed up. I'm like, nah, something ain't right. But everything else sounds strong. That's a little off, but then I hit C and it'll sound that terrible, right? Girl, tell me why I just wasn't twisting it enough. I was basically seriously tuning to the wrong C. So I'm so excited about that, because now we're going to start playing. Yeah, I didn't tune it all the way. Girl, listen, I'm all the way off track. We supposed to be breathing by now. we supposed to be. Listen, I was thinking too, man. I gotta figure out some way to make book club a little more interactive, right? So, what's your idea? I was thinking sometimes I stop and ask some questions, or I kind of talk about it as we read along. But I don't know. You know what I mean? Yeah, so that's why I hadn't played it. Cause I couldn't tune C right. I listen, I done get left them a bad. You know I'm the king of reviews. I'll leave you a terror review in a heartbeat, right? Listen, I didn't tell you about this. Another side story. Listen, we got see, I know that one off. But I'm not gonna sit here and tune this with y'all. But that's another exciting thing about it with my side quest. So what you want? A chapter discussion? You know what? Chapter discussion might be right. Um, nah. See, he you don't got a code name. He just know you by your real name, right? So he ain't gonna know you by Liberty Brown. You know what I mean? And he ain't on TikTok, of course. He on Facebook. Well, he probably done closed that by now because he think we tripping. But yeah, I hadn't played it in a while because of that C thing. But once I figured that out, you know I'm gonna be in here. Guantanamera, Juanita Guantanamera, Guantanamera. Having the time of my life with that ukulele. They ain't gonna be able to shut me up, man. Hey. Now I'm back on my ukulele, so I'm excited about it. Listen, it's funny because Kat was on in the crowd last time. I got her the ukulele when I was doing Reiki. You know, part of helping her healing process, so she got something to play with. And then why her friends gave me a nickname, and my name is Ukulele. They be clowning each other with the ukulele thing. So some people think I'm the ukulele king, but I don't know how to play nothing on that. I did learn how to play a couple of things, but I hadn't done it in so long I can't remember. So, all right. Thank you. Finally liking the chat. Todd, you need to get on here and start playing it. Oh yeah, I was too crunk. You should have seen me in here. Put the lime in the coconut. Listen, I love Daddy Daycare. As a man who works with kids, I can appreciate Daddy Daycare. And that's one of my favorite parts of the movie. Put the lime in the coconut. I'm sorry, I'm tripping. And listen, yeah, I'm sober. So, okay, let's hit some sound bowl. I done played with the ukulele for a little bit. Let's change the mood. Let's get the mood. And then you know what? This is better. I feel a little crunk. I woke up this morning feeling a little emotional. I don't even know what it was about. Maybe all this rain and all that stuff. So y'all got me tripping right now. The ukulele. Listen, you ain't supposed to join in. You supposed to be on my team. You don't even know that girl. Don't be joining her and her friends. Yeah, I was thinking about the dinner again. Um, we gonna definitely do the soul family dinner. I appreciate y'all. Breakfast, lunch, something. Thanks for joining. Tap the screen, show some love. Listen, I'm glad she told me about that heart thing. You see, I put it in the pinned comment. Like tap that heart, join my fan club. We're gonna see what that does. I got we balling. I got 2 cents the other day from the last show. So we winning in life right now with that 2 cent. Appreciate you. Okay, let me turn down the noise cancellation because of the we ain't seen our boy in a while, my seal. Now watch it. I say that he gonna join. You know what? That's probably why I can't see him because I don't got Twitch up. I got everything else, so forgive me. We are actually still on Twitch, right? So the problem is, and at one day I'm gonna figure out the perfect two-way setup, right? Whoop whoop, little crowns, doo 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 doo. Hold on, I gotta play one of them. You probably like gunfire. Let me make sure that shows up. I want you to make sure you hear it. There you go. That's for you, Liberty. Gunfire. What the bomber? What the bomber clot? Listen, that's a TikTok video. Side note, but we still. Thank you for Toddy. Hold on. I gotta start. I guess maybe if I start using these buttons I got on here, that might make it more exciting too. Allie, I appreciate you stopping through for a second. We this is an abnormal night, so okay, you get the applause, Toddy. Listen, I need to be using these buttons. I pay for that. Ivy, I appreciate you. As a matter of fact, we wilding out right now, so I'm supposed to be reading. We definitely should have done the breath exercises by now, but lo siento. We tripping out. We just going with the vibe. So the vibe is we on some mess right now. So I don't even feel like we in the proper energy to even do the chakra cleanse. You feel me? Like that thing. Hey, listen, we tripping, right? So, hey, I'm gonna hit you one more time with the gunshot liberty. That's just the funniest sound effect ever. And you remember I did record those. What was it? And I never use them.
From my soul to yours. Hello, hello, hello.
From my soul to yours. I told Kat I got I got a button right here for her. It's button 3 for her song. Cause she used to make music and she don't make it no more. But I told her to write me some verses because I'm gonna beatbox or something. So we gonna make a track. Something. And I got a button for her song. I'm waiting for her to go ahead and give me the green light because I'm trying to respect her wishes. You know what I mean? I'm trying to support my people's dreams and everything. Listen, yeah, I'm rolling with the vibe. So we probably just gonna kind of jump in reading. I'll tell you about the breathing exercise. We can't do that. We tripping. We on that 444. Machine Gun Liberty. MCL. Well, no, well, MGL. That's better. I'm talking about MCL. That's terrible. I was going to say we don't call you MCL anyway, but MGL, Machine Gun Liberty. That's why. That'll work. So the 444 breathing exercise is we'll do it for you for Machine Gun Liberty. It is you breathe in for a 4 count. Listen, this is what I didn't know. And as a matter of fact, I'm glad we're gonna do the 444 because I learned I was doing a session the other day, and one of my coworkers was teaching about the 444. Now it's like I do the 444, but she called it box breathing, and when you do it, you draw the box 4, 4, 4, 4. But I wasn't doing. We wasn't doing that. I still like 4, 4, 4, 3. Anyway, so you breathe in for a 4 count. You hold your breath for a 4 count, and you breathe out for a 4 count. You don't got to worry about it. All you got to do is relax and do the breathing with me. I mean, do the breathing. I will keep track of the counting for you. So, on the count of 3, family, the 444. 1, 2, 3. Breathe in 4, 2, 3, 4. Hold 4, 2, 3, 4. Release 4, 2, 3, 4. One more time, family. Breathe in 4, 2, 3, 4. Hold 4, 2, 3, 4. Release 4, 2, 3, 4. All right, so that's the energy. We're not gonna spend too much on that. We're doing a light visualization. I'm just gonna jump into reading. Really, I don't even really feel like the vibe is not with that. But enjoy this reading under some purple light. The color for your third eye is indigo. So if you have some indigo, then do indigo. But if not, figure out some variation. Allow the light to rest on you and heal. If you want to do some scents, rosemary is very good. Sage, cedar wood. And then if you want to wear your stones, my favorite, because I'm biased, I'm a Pisces, is amethyst. Amethyst is a great stone for your third eye. Maybe that's why I'm so intuitive. I got amethyst all over this place. So thanks. I use it to enhance my intuitiveness, my intuition. I will do the affirmations. You want to do some affirmations to help balance out your third eye. You can easily. Hold on, I want to try to record this because Liberty, you said we need to post more of these affirmation videos. So let me see if this is going to work. It did work last time from my phone, but that one time I did it from my keyboard, it stopped the whole show. It was crazy. So affirmations. Third eye affirmations are: I trust my intuition. My imagination is powerful. I think clearly. My third eye sees all. I trust my intuition. My imagination is powerful. I think clearly. And my third eye sees all. Okay. So, yeah. I I've been saving them. Part of the problem with me posting them has been, listen, because I record, I have every single episode, all 200, and only me and YouTube has, excuse me, has every episode that we've ever done, all 200 and some change, right? But when it comes time, most of the editing software acts crazy because I have that whole hour and some change recorded, so that's a lot of memory. And it is such a headache just trying to get that clip from hours of video. So I tried to get a little smarter, and Streamlabs took away Streamlabs music, so that's why we don't have any music jamming. Hold on, excuse me. Before the show, I'm going to sign up for something else. They took away music, but then they also gave us some AI replay. So it's supposed to automatically pick the best scenes from your show and make clips, right? It did do it once. It did a perfect job, and the one clip every other time it just clipped stuff, right? But the one thing it did clip was the affirmations. I was like, oh, that's a perfect clip, right? So I set it up where I can hit it on my phone for my phone to record and my keyboard. So now I save the replay. So now it's easier. It just saves 2 minutes. And I can take that 2 minute video. I can clip the 2 minute videos together. I can do whatever I need to do with my 2 minute videos. And that's a whole lot easier to post. I can post straight from Streamlabs, or I can send it to my phone and do some editing like that. Now, only thing about it is YouTube. Trying to figure out that right now. YouTube kind of likes my shorts a little bit better. My shorts get a little love on YouTube. The videos, I don't know how they feel about them. Interestingly enough, listen, I made some salmon patties today. I'm disappointed I ain't have enough cornstarch, so I had to use a little flour. And flour's okay, but I grew up with cornstarch, and I like cornstarch. Cornstarch makes it a little more crumbly. When you do a flour makes it feel breaded. I don't know if that makes sense to anybody that cooks, but I'm so excited about it. Let me see, where are we at in the store, Liberty? You remember? Were you not here last week? Oh, that's right. He's starting to get his weekend visits home. That's right. That's right. That's right. He had his first weekend visit. He got back with his baby mama. They realized that they both had grown and the love is no longer there. Um, okay, let me think. What you want to try? Do you want to try yeah, I did. That's why we do a lot of exercise. I'm finally responding to my spirit needs this sidebar. We do a lot of exercises on trusting your spirit. And that can be a difficult task sometimes, especially when something that your spirit wants does not go with what you have planned, right? Because we have these shows planned every Thursday. I get on here, I say a few words, I hit that bowl, some other instrument, we breathe, we visualize, we read, we move on with our lives. Right. So Tuesday we always talk about the healing and all that other stuff. So, but all that to say is I also have to model or live authentically and show examples where I too have to just trust my spirit. And I guess my spirit did want to laugh a little bit tonight. We waste a little time. We'll still get some reading in, which was good. So yeah, needed the sidebar. I was excited about my guitar. I mean, you don't even understand how crook I am about that ukulele. I hadn't played it, so I was so mad. I was so mad I ain't want to buy a new one. And this is what was crunk too, because I got that speaker over there, right? And I be trying to do karaoke, and this thing plug in to my speaker, so it's an electric ukulele. Girl, I'll be wilding out. Okay, excuse me, I'm calm now. I grew seriously uptight when I got closer to parole eligibility. It was the kind of uptight where you can barely speak and your fuse is short, and everybody knows to keep their distance until you get through your hell. Dudes were getting turned downs left and right, and I was scared that my motivation or sanity would slip if I got denied. I knew my case would be a tough call for the parole board. There were a few matters working against me. I was a repeat offender. I was on probation for another felony when I stuck up that hamburger joint, and both crimes involved the use of a gun. But there were also some things working in my favor. Except for a few minor infractions, I've been the model prisoner. If there was such a thing, I stayed clean, obeyed the rules, and most important, I had a supportive family to go home to, unlike many inmates who had nowhere to go. The trip home made me focus more on my future and try to figure out what I would do if paroled. I definitely wanted to return to college, but to study what? I considered studying to be a librarian when I got out. After reading about Margaret Mead's field work and the Hopi Indians, I became fascinated that I thought I might want to study anthropology. When I read Ernest Hemingway, I thought I might want to be a writer. I also reminded myself of reality as I viewed it. White people pursue careers, black folks pursue jobs. I marveled that white people made livings in so many interesting ways beyond working at the shipyard or joining the army. Jim had urged me to learn a trade before leaving prison. I knew that too would help my parole chances. He said most of the guys in prisons couldn't be rehabilitated because they had never been habilitated in the first place. I looked up that word habilitate and concluded he was right. The definition said to make capable, qualify. Most inmates couldn't be requalified because they had never been qualified for anything before going to prison. The only skill most of the guys at Southampton could boast of was their nut game, their ability to throw down. Auto mechanics, dentistry, brick masonry, and several other vocational trades were offered in Southampton, but none of that interested me. Jim, who operated the print shop for the complex, taught me how to use small printing press, and shortly before leaving, told me about a lucrative scam he'd run. He'd print bogus copies of the canteen cards that were distributed to inmates as their monthly pay. He gave some fake cards to needy inmates and sold most of the rest to other prisoners at discount rates for cash. When he got visits, he sent the cash home to be placed in the bank account so he'd have money saved up when he got home. I decided to learn the printing trade. I wrote the warden and the state prison officials asking to transfer to the minimum security at St. Bridget's Correctional Center, which had the only printing program in the state prison system. A month or so later, I noted in my journal when I got the good news. Well, my transfer to St. Bride's has been approved, and now that I'm waiting to leave, I must get in the habit of stepping out into the unknown and making the necessary sacrifices for things I want. My goals must be in focus at all times. I must eat, drink, sleep, and think college until I'm there. It's me against the world. June 25th, 1977. You do got to give yourself some breaks sometimes, but you definitely got to stay focused on your goal. Keep taking steps forward, even when you have those two steps back. Less than a month later, a guard came to my cell one morning and told me, pack your bags and go to the administrative building. I was to be transferred to St. Bride's. The St. Bride's compound is located in Chesapeake, less than 20 miles from Cavalier Manor. When I wrote my mother and told her where I was, she was thrilled. It was as if the closer proximity to the house was a symbolic sign that I was also near to freedom. Compared to Southampton, St. Bride's was easy time. The atmosphere was more laid back. Most inmates had little time to do and light convictions. Burglary, drug abuse, abuse, parole violations. Other Others with serious felony convictions, such as mine, were close enough to parole eligibility to have their prison status upgraded to minimum security. There were no wolves to speak of at St. Bride's. It was understood that being in such a chilled out place was a privilege, and guys seldom did anything crazy that would get them shipped to rougher compounds. The Richmond and the Tidewater gangs also dominated at St. Bride's, but the tension level was so low it didn't matter whether the guys had homies or not. The first day I got there, no, take your time, Liberty. I appreciate you. Yeah, that's what a model prisoner. That's funny. That's why he said if it's such a thing. The first day I got there, I ran into my homeboys from Portsmouth and, of course, from Cavalier Manor. Red, Wink Wink, Al, Piggy Hume, and Reed. They were glad to see me and helped me get settled in, just like the homies had done before. I got acclimated in no time. Most evenings after chow, I hung out on the yard playing chess and shooting the breeze. At night, we watched TV or hung out at each other's bunk in the dormitory cells like soldiers in the barrack, rapping about the streets and listening to music. I found a lot of ways to keep busy. I entered and won the annual chess tournament at the complex. The win and the trophy, I still have it, were especially sweet because I beat an egotistical white inmate in the finals. I fasted for 2 days in preparation for that match and beat that white boy like he stole something. Jim and Mo Battle would have been proud of me. Since I was close to home, more people were able to visit me. One visitor was my neighbor Greg, who remained close to my family and was living at a home after being kicked out of the army. I also got visits from Yvette Johnson, an old school friend I'd run into when I went home on furlough. I was so grateful for female companionship that I instantly fell for Yvette the first time she visited. Overall, I treated St. Bride's like an adventure. Going there and having to adjust to a new environment all over again helped kill time. That's what I needed in those last few months, to kill time, to keep myself preoccupied with so many challenges at the time that the time passed unnoticed. While waiting for opening for the print shop classes, I worked in the kitchen. I rose early every morning, dressed in my white hat and Pillsbury Doughboy uniform, and helped prepare inmate meals. When mealtime came, I worked in the serving line, scooping food from the deep containers and loading it on the inmate trays. One day, a group of about 10 people came through the kitchen as a part of a citizens tour. I was cleaning tables as they passed into the dining area and sat down. As I set glasses of tea on the table before them, I recognized one of the men in the group. It was Mr. Brown, my junior high gym teacher. His hair had gone gray and he'd grown a mustache, but otherwise he looked the same. When our eyes met, he stared at me a long time, straining to remember. He pointed a finger and squinted his eyes. "Where do I know you from? You were in one of my classes, weren't you?" "Yes," I said. "I took gym and health under you at W.E. Walters. I'm Nathan McCall." "That's right, McCall." The Mr. Brown I remember would have started joning on the spot, but nothing was funny now. I could tell he was disappointed and hurt to see me, one of his former students, doing time. He looked long and hard and remained silent, wondering, I assume, what to say next. Then he asked, "What you in for, McCall?" I said, "Armed robbery." He shook his head slightly. A wave of shame passed through me. I felt like I should try to explain, to let him know I expected to get out soon and assure him that I intended to straighten up. But what was there to explain? What good would it do? Mr. Brown suddenly realized that the other visitors, all white, were staring. He stiffened and became self conscious, lowering his voice when he spoke, occasionally cutting an eye at his white colleagues. Eventually, the institutional guide urged the group to move up to the next phase of the tour. Before leaving, Mr. Brown leaned low toward me and said, "Hang in there." "Sure, I'll see you around, Mr. Brown." I waved goodbye. I relived that 15-minute encounter over and over in my head for the rest of the day. I thought about how Mr. Brown used to drone and preach to the guys in our class at Water, and how many of his former students were either dead or in prison, like me. Seeing him made me remember how hard I'd studied for one of his midterm exams, and for some strange reason, I still recall the snatches of the definition of one of his health terms I'd memorized but never quite grasped: basal metabolism. I wish that I could have talked them longer. Mr. Brown was one of many black people who had shown me and other students that he cared, and I wanted to let him know that I finally understood the value of such caring. I wanted to tell him that his efforts had not been in vain, even though, judging from my circumstances, I'm tripping, that seemed to be the case. But Mr. Brown was gone, and there was nothing to do but grieve in my journal. Today, I saw Mr. Brown, my former gym teacher from junior high school. I could see that he was hurt and disappointed to see me in prison. He had one of those "where did I fail" looks in his eyes, and I wanted to tell him that he had been a good teacher to me. I wanted to convince him to recite something that he had taught me in health class. Basal metabolism is the rate at which the heart makes up heat from the oxygen and food substances in the blood. Maybe that's right, maybe not. There are so many Mr. Browns out there who do the damnedest to teach the Nathan McCalls that there is a right and a wrong way, a good and a bad, and there are far too many Nathan McCalls who simply must learn the hard way. September 17th, 1977. No African American spends much time in prison without being exposed to the doctrine of black Muslims. Ever since the Nation of Islam was founded in the 1930s, it has drawn a lot of its converts from the prisons, where the Muslims have captive audiences of brothers to teach what they call the plain truth. The Muslims commanded as much respect as any group at Southampton. Always neatly dressed and well behaved, they walked around with their kufis and carrying copies of the Holy Quran and spreading their messages of black salvation through self-reliance. Okay? Brothers respect Muslims for being disciplined, religious people, and at the same time, warriors. The Muslims didn't believe in that stuff about turning the other cheek. Nobody messed with them because many of them were hard-nosed cats who were eager to throw down for the righteous cause. I know that's right. The Muslims at St. Bride's were led by a guy named Rasul, who was respected there like Jim was revered at Southampton. When I got to St. Bride's, Rasul watched me from a distance for a while, then sent two of his representatives to invite me to the weekly service that he had led. I went to the service and later talked with him over a few games of chess. Initially, I was skeptical, but after checking out the Muslims' beliefs, I was impressed. The group Rasul represented was the African American Muslim Mission, not to be confused with the Nation of Islam, which is led by Louis Farrakhan. The Muslim Mission is led by Warith Muhammad, the son of the one-time Nation of Islam leader Elijah Muhammad. And Elijah died in 1975. Warith and Farrakhan split because Warith wanted to lead the group to a more orthodox practice of the faith. They evolved a lot from the 1960s when they railed about Yaqub and the big-headed scientists. I still laugh when they talk about Yaqub because they talking about Jacob, the same person, who according to them created white people from a mixture of pig and dog, rat and cat, too, according. Now, I don't know about the truth of this, but I can say some of these new scientific techniques are not necessarily that new. Um, Rasul explained all of that to me when we talked. He also turned me on to one of the hippest books I've ever read in prison. It was a thin, simply written paperback titled "The Natural Psychologically of the Human Transformation," written by Naeem Akbar. I done read a couple of Naeem Akbar books. That's cute. A black psychologist who is also a Muslim. The book suggests ways that people can develop their full potential. It grabbed my attention right off the bat because after wasting so many years messing around in the streets, I was trying to do double time to regain direction and mental health. In his book, Dr. Akbar used examples of the butterfly, which goes through several incarnations from a caterpillar to a flying insect to reach full development. He says that human beings similarly have the potential to develop and transform in stages. He says we start off as a caterpillar stage as crawling babies, concerned solely with satisfying our most basic physical needs. Then we evolve into mental beings who are able to think and extend our desires beyond basic physical drives. Our highest and most beautiful stage of development, he says, is spiritual, a state that enables us to soar symbolically like a butterfly. And that's our Tuesday show. That's why we talk about that healing. We get into freedom, spiritually light. We work on our four bodies: mental, emotional, physical, spiritual. You dig? Dr. Akbar says that most people don't understand the developmental process and as a result, don't even strive to reach their highest potential. In fact, he says many people grow up and remain mentally locked in the warm like first stage. It's funny. Toddy, I don't know if you still here. Hey man, it's Thursday too. You ain't you probably at gymnastics now, but we just talked about that. How people can be 50 years old, chronological age of 50, and then be emotionally 16, right? When I reflected, I realized that my entire life before prison had been spent locked in that baby stage. Most of the dudes I knew had lived like that. In fact, when I really thought about it, it seemed that much of American culture was conditioned that way. Self absorbed, driven mainly by greed for material possessions, and uninterested in evolving to a higher stage or extending concern beyond self to other human beings. Natural psychology of human transformation helped me focus, more intently on reaching my spiritual peak. Whenever I fasted and meditated, I can feel my spirit strengthening. I realized that there was an entire aspect of myself, probably the most important aspect, that I had completely ignored for most of my life. It was an enlightening discovery for me. I got lots of what people I got lots of what I had gone to say brides for. What? I'm lost. I got lots of what I had gone to St. Brides for. The printing program, okay, got it. The printing program had a top notch instructor and featured the latest equipment. I learned to operate offset presses, do studio photography, layout, and plate making, the whole printing process from start to finish. The instructor was friendly, a philosophical white man who seemed to be genuinely enjoy teaching. Some days when class was over, he spent time chatting with us about the challenges we could expect to face when we returned to the real world. He said, and I knew that my chance of success would increase greatly if I could find some decent printing job or get in college. More and more, I found that I enjoyed writing. I narrowed my career choices down to English literature and journalism. I tried to find out all I could about journalism. What is journalism? What is it that journalists do? How much do they earn, etc. I recalled how two journalists at the Washington Post had used their reporting skills to kick a corrupt president square in the ass, and that seemed like the kind of thing I'd like to learn. No, that's right. I wrote to the head of Norfolk State University journalism department and explained my situation and told him I wanted badly to make a new start. The department head, Dr. Larry Kakwa, wrote me back. He also entered me into a competition that required me to write a paper explaining why I wanted to study journalism. I wrote the paper and won a 1 year tuition scholarship. I was pleasantly stunned. It was the second time in months that I had gone after something geared towards self improvement and had got it. Once you get on your path, once you walking in alignment with your what you're supposed to be do, we talked about it. The universe will conspire for your success, right? Dr. Quaggle's quick response also boosted my belief that black colleges and universities are committed to helping blacks beyond the classroom. I bet that if I'd written from prison to a department head at some white university, he probably would have notified the campus police or sought an order barring me from coming within 50 yards of that white campus. That help from Dr. Kagwa will go a long way in helping me demonstrate to the parole board that I had solid plans to getting rolling once I got paroled. Excuse me. About 2 weeks before my hearing, I got a last minute plug from my print shop instructor. An inmate got his hand caught in one of the large presses. When he screamed, I ran over, turned off the machine, reversed the rollers, and pulled his hand out before it gets sucked into the feelers like a sheet of paper. His hand was cut up pretty badly, but he made it out all right considering that he could have happened. The instructor thanked me for reacting so quickly and wrote a letter of commendation for my prison file. I was good to go. On the day I went before the parole board, I was so nervous I was nearly paralyzed. I was scared that I'd get there, get asked a question, and choke. I was scared that when it was time for me to speak, all my suffering would come to the surface and all my emotions would bum rush my throat and nothing would come out. So I did some deep breathing exercises and prayed for the best. I waited in the hallway with about 6 other dudes who were going before the board that day. All of us looked alike. We looked like choir boys sitting out there. We were spit shined and scrubbed and lotioned down to the max. We all had our hair cut short. We had our shirt buttoned all the way to the top. And we were so quiet you could hear the roaches walking across the shiny floors. But appearances didn't seem to sway the board. When dudes came out after meeting the board, they were red-eyed and withdrawn. I asked one guy how he thought of things had gone for him. He looked at me and shook his head slowly and said, "It looks bad for the home team." Boy, we still say stuff like that, cuz that's crazy. When my name was called, I went in and I took a seat before the board members, several white men and a black woman who sat behind a long table. It was stern faced, tight bunch, no nonsense all the way. To ask a few questions about my crime, my family, that sort of thing. Then after several other minor questions came the biggie. So, Mr. Call, what do you plan to do to better yourself if you get out? And what arrangements have you made to carry out those plans? If a cat hasn't seriously given consideration to his future, really thought it out, that's the question that cold cocks him. That's the one that renews his lease for another year. I'm sorry, I'm laughing at that because he talking about jail. He answered that one wrong. He going back. If he has wasted his time, neglected to improve himself, he can't answer that question convincingly, he's down for the count. TKO. With the parole board, You got to come strong or not at all because they've heard all the bullshit they care to hear and they can smell it a mile away. I knew all that going in. I knew I couldn't go in there half stepping. I was prepared. My future, shit, I had thought about it, prayed about it, and dreamed about it the entire time I was down. I thought about a hell of a lot about my future, enough to know that I might not have a future if I didn't get sprung that first time up. When they hit me with that question, they hit the right person that time because I was ready. I rapped and rapped hard. I rapped harder than I ever rapped in my life. I took all the skills I picked up rapping with the post penitentiary philosophers out on the yard and threw the whole handful at the parole board. I told them I had done all I'd done to improve myself in the nearly 3 years that I had been locked up and shared my plans to go home to my family and to enroll at Norfolk State. I told them that robbing that hamburger joint was the stupidest thing I could have ever done, and that I spent a lot of time thinking about that and other mistakes I've made in my life. The bottom line was I came straight from the heart. I came from so deep within the heart that I surprised myself. That was me when I was talking about that interview you had me in there. Boy cried in his own job interview. But I meant every word I said. I was changed. I knew it. And I wanted to make sure they knew it. I bet those white folks on that parole board were glad when they finally when I finally finished talking. I bet they thought I'd never shut up. I bet that when I finished and left that room, they burst out laughing and said, "Damn, we need to hurry up and let this N word out. This dude really wants badly to get out of here." But they didn't come off like that. They were very professional. When I finished talking, one of the parole board members said, "Thank you, Mr. McCall. The board will take that in consideration, all that you have said. You will be notified within the next month of our decision." They sent me on my way without a hint of the verdict. We're going to finish the chapter. Doo-doo-doo. Waiting for another answer was like waiting to be sentenced all over again. Those weeks were hard on me as the entire 3 years had been. I nagged my institutional counselor constantly to see if a response had come. He got mad at me for nagging him, and I got mad at him for getting mad at me. If he had been an inmate and not a counselor, we had come to blows because I was uptight as hell and I already had full head of steam. When my letter from the board finally arrived, I took it to my bunk and sat down alone. I looked at the letter in the sealed envelope a long time before even attempting to open it. I needed a drink, but since there were no bars open in the penitentiary, I had to face it straight. I gave myself the long talk before opening it. Keep it cool. You done the best you could do. You given it your best shot and programmed hard. Stay strong no matter what happens. Then I opened the letter and I could hardly believe it. For a long while, I just sat there, staring at the words, reading the letter over and over, making sure I gotten it right. I thought, I made parole. I made it. I'm getting out. They gonna let me go. I can go home soon. I made it. I can't believe it. I made it. I made parole. Waiting for my February 3rd, 1978 release date was worse than waiting for the parole letter, especially in the final few weeks. There were times, crazy moments when reason escaped me and I feared something weird might happen to make them revoke my parole. I heard the horror stories of dudes who had caught new charges while waiting to walk. Once in Southampton, a dude got set up on a reefer bus only a few days before he was to leave. He went to court and got more time. I had known I had no known enemies who would do that to me, but I knew that in the craziness of prison life, anything was possible. I wouldn't have been too surprised if my counselor had come and said the parole board notified me that they made a mistake. They sent the letter to the wrong person. You got turned down. That's the kind of stuff that happens sometimes. Any inmate with half a brain knows not to get too happy. He knows that if he knows that it ain't over till it's over. He's not free until he walks out that front door. So I waited and struggled through the toughest few weeks of my entire bid. Even though I have made parole, time is no easier to conquer than it was nearly 3 years ago. A day is still 24 grueling hours, and a week is still an eternity. The fact that I will soon be freed has eased my present suffering a little, for in my heart I'm serving a life sentence until the day I walk out that front gate. June 16th, 1978. Wait a minute. Oh, scratch. That's January 16th. I was like, I thought he'd leave February. How's this June? January 16th. In our final talk before I went home, the print shop instructor told me to do something I'll never forget. Make sure that whatever you do, you find a job in an atmosphere that is psychologically comfortable for you. I appreciated the intent, but I needed that piece of advice like I needed a 25 automatic with extra clips. It was clear to me as a white man, my instructor came from a reality that gave him enough choices to be able to look for a comfortable work environment. But that was a foreign concept to me, a contradiction in terms. I knew that if I worked, I'd likely work for white folks. So how could it be a comfortable? I figured that if I followed my instructor's advice and looked for a comfortable work environment, I'd be unemployed all my life, unless I worked for a black owned business or started one myself. I politely thanked my instructor for the advice and moved on thinking he meant well. He ain't know any better. When I thought about it later, I concluded that his advice was better suited for those happy faced white boys in the print shop. Using connections they had on the outside, most of them landed jobs guaranteed at local commercial print shops before their prison release. It pissed me off that the white boys had the inside track, even in the penitentiary. They acted like they had it made, like they knew they were going to get back into the flow of things as soon as they were sprung. They were chilled, and I was nervous as hell, anxious and scared at the same time, wondering what would happen to me on the outside if things didn't work out. I have observed that many whites here seem unfazed by their plight in prison. They regard confinement merely as a temporary restraint from their usual lives, and they face the future with optimism, confident that they have only to slip on a coat and tie, get a haircut, and shave for the establishment to forget their transgressions. But most blacks look ahead with apprehension, afraid that we may never be forgiven for our crimes or the color of our skin. January 24th, 1974. I remember clearly that snowy February day in 1978 when I was released from the joint. My homies gathered on the sidewalk that morning and watched me leave. As I climbed into the car and my mother drove off, I cast a long, hard look at the prison and tears began streaming uncontrollably down my face. I felt a strange mixture of pain and pride. I was mostly proud that I had survived, and I told myself then and there, I can do anything. Although it had been the most tragic event in my life, prison, with all its sickness and suffering, had also been the most instructional challenge. It forced me to go deep, real deep, within a tap, a well I didn't even know I had. Through that painful trip, I found meaning. No longer was life a thing of bewilderment. No longer did I feel like a cosmic freak, a black intruder in the world not created for me and my people. No longer were my angry feelings about the vast white world simply vague, invalid impulses dangling on the edge of my mind. I knew the reasons for those feelings now. I understood them better, and most important, I could express them precisely as they arose. I knew that there was a purpose and a design in creation and that my life was somehow part of that grand scheme. I had just as much right to be alive and happy as anybody else, and I wasn't going to let anybody, especially not white folks, make me feel otherwise. All right, family, we'll stop there. Hey, man, listen, you ain't lying. That it was a relief when I cried in that interview. That's all I can say. I know we talked about it a bunch, but man, it was really, really, really a level of freedom I hadn't experienced in a minute. I said it 1,000 times, to be successful in that career or whatever you deem as success, but to be able to have the positions that I had in my career, to even be able to say I had a career, like dude was saying, instead of just a series of jobs. My series of jobs was under one umbrella. I definitely had to do some stunting of my growth. And it's funny because I see some of the people that I work with now going through that transition, and I remind them of how beautiful that morally correctness that they can have is. Um, because I just made business decisions at some point. I tried to make it easier for staff, make it a fun place to work, make work stuff like that. But girl, I was swimming with sharks. So swimming sharks, you gotta be a shark. And all that I've lost track of how many people I've terminated in my life, and that's not hey, that's not what I want to be known for. That's not a legacy. That's the word. That's not a legacy I want to live. When I was a kid, I wasn't sitting here thinking about, I want to terminate hundreds of people when they get big. Nah, I didn't want to make decisions for people paper like that. But, the amount of people, man, I mean, I done cussed out pastors, businessmen, parents, grandparents, aunts, uncles, everybody. I just had to be. You just got to be. It's nonprofit, but nonprofit, man, is just as vicious as for profit. The only difference is where you get the money from. You know what I mean? It's like Democrat and Republican. They two wings of the same bird. It don't make a difference, really. All right, family. So we had a great week. I hope you have a fantastic weekend. I hope we get to see you here next Tuesday. I don't know what we're gonna talk about Tuesday. We kind of had freestyle last Tuesday, and it was pretty good for me. Um, we went with the vibe of the energy, and we talked about tools of letting go. We still might revisit a little bit more about tools of letting go and tools for forgiveness a little bit. But if we can't see you on Tuesday, I hope we have you back here Thursday for another episode of Thursday Night Book Club, where we will continue reading Before I Let Go. Much gratitude. I value and appreciate your soul family. Thanks for the love. And until next time, later, my people.